We need to talk about S&box. And yes, this is a very serious video because of the current state and everything else that is going on. We have to talk about the good, the bad, the ugly, all of it. That's what I like to do on this channel. It's not only just talking about the positive aspects, but also the negative aspects and things that are happening within the community, because I do this for the love of the game, right? I do this because I see something within S&box and I love content creation. It is what I do, and I can't stop myself from doing that. So here we are. But we're going to be talking quite a bit about this because I think it's very important, and right now it's really rough. I do have to say a couple of things, both positive and negative, so I am going to be quite neutral on this, and that's just me. These are my own personal thoughts. You can agree with me or disagree with me, but I am opening up anyone who wants to go and put their thoughts personally, if it's good, bad, negative, ugly, whatever it is, leave a comment down below because I would like your thoughts, regardless of whatever it is. I want this game to improve, and I know there's a couple of things that I have my own personal critiques when it comes to Face Punch and the game itself, so we're just going to get right into some of these topics. First off is the issue at the moment with launch. Now, I won't lie. I already said this numerous amount of times before, and for the people who are new to the channel, who are subscribing for the first time, you probably have missed over the last 3 years of me covering this game as it was in development, and some of the things that I have personally run into and other things that this community has went through in terms of growing pains. The first thing I would have to say is certain decisions that were made when it came to launch. Gary already said that there were some missteps that they took with the launch. I already said this before, and I said it's kind of odd hearing this because to me personally, it feels more damage control-y than anything, given that while it is understandable that they said at some point we're going to have to release the platform for what it is and push into 1.0, and then also another thing, which was a lot of people saying, why didn't they go out of the way to put it in early access? Gary has already talked about this in an interview as to why he didn't want to do early access, but there could have been a couple of other different things, like maybe delaying the game itself when it comes to launch, or other things just a little bit more so that there could be enough time for some other things to be ironed out, because now Face Punch has to pay the price of launching the game, given, okay, we're going to use some logic here, that yes, it is a user-generated content platform. It just launched and it doesn't have as much content. A lot of people who were originally looking into this game obviously were super hyped up, either by many people, either including me or other different YouTubers, or people talking about this as Gary's mod 2. No matter what has happened during this time with the game, yes, the spiritual successor to Gary's mod, which by the way, that has been completely removed now. That has been completely removed from the description on Steam. And I think that it is a great change for them to do that now. It just shows that there was a lot of backlash that people were already having with the game, as expecting it to be a Gary's mod 2, not only because of what they were mentioning, that it is a spiritual successor, which again, here's a definition of that, and some people not understanding what that is, but also at the same time kind of getting super hyped up with the idea of, well, it is a Gary's mod 2 because of what's shown. We're not going to fully argue about that because at this point it doesn't really matter anymore. The damage is already done. Another thing is the AI slop thing that was going on. Again, it's a given that with a lot of these user-generated content platforms, even people mentioning that Roblox has AI-generated stuff, a positive that Face Punch has decided to do is deal with this accordingly, compared to how Roblox doesn't really even care, because to be honest, mostly it's kids playing Roblox. Like, let's be real. Yeah, I get it. There's adults that play Roblox too and whatever. It doesn't matter. Most of the stuff is very important because this will actually benefit most of the players on the platform who are taking out the time to go and filter the games to see what is actually worth playing. To do a little shameless plug here, I also found out that you can do collections on S&box and you can view them through the website. I've already made my own recommended games, which you can take out the time to see for yourself. There's around maybe 37 or 40 of them. And Gary has already mentioned it within the most recent blog post about the Steam reviews, where he understands that it's incredibly painful for Face Punch to see, but that is kind of the price that they have to pay for some of these decisions because they made them. I don't really know what other words to kind of put into this. That's pretty much it. While I do understand that the platform itself is user-generated content platform and it's fresh, it will take some time. But there is other people who have completely hyped themselves up so high, and it is a mix of a couple different things, which is people's expectations and also the wording and kind of playing around with spiritual successor Agary's mod. And at this point, it's completely different as there is different changes that are happening with the game as of the description and what it's trying to present itself as. Another thing I want to talk about is price. So there is some people that will say that $20 really isn't much for the game, and others are saying $20 is a lot for the game, given that the game in its current state is not really too fulfilling if you're going to buy it for 20 bucks. I get it. There's not that much content for some of you guys that would consider this to be a perfect amount of money, and it feels more of an early adopter's fee than anything else, as 2 years down the line, it will be then free to play. So my only solution to this would be have a sale, $10. If you're not going to make the game free to play because you feel like it's way too early, and personally, in my opinion, I don't see an actual benefit outside of player numbers maybe skyrocketing, but then dropping drastically because there really isn't enough content on the platform. I feel like $10 to me personally would probably be the best benefit for the game because, again, 10 bucks, right? I understand for some people, if that might even be expensive, which, hey man, that's what I would have to say. You could make a sale and make it $10 to give people another excuse to try to get the game. And if they feel like it's worth the money, then they can keep it for the $10 or not. But personally, as of right now, I know there has been some people that have mentioned, why not just make the game free to play? You're going against Roblox and Fortnite and other things. To me, it's like, all right, I get it in the sense of Facepunch needs to make money to make sure that they're covered for possibly the first 2 years of development for the game. If it is free to play, I feel like it's still going to run into the same issues of people not only playing the game, which again, a lot more people is beneficial, but they're going to run into the same issues of there's not enough content in the game. Some of these games actually suck because of quality control and the issues, which now we have a review system, which should help with discovery. I personally don't know, other than it would be great for player numbers, but at what point? Because eventually they're going to leave if there's not enough content that is there. Again, this is the main issue with new platforms, is that they're not going to be perfect on launch. Do I get the idea that some people are going to argue and say there was at least 4 to 5 years that could have been done where there was a ton of content that people were working on the platform that should have been there before its release? This has been something that Facepunch has been trying to do, and I think the reason why that there wasn't as much content is because of the retooling that they did on S&box back, I think it was like 2023, 2024, when they switched from using the Source 1 style entity system, which is how they mostly work on games in Source Engine, and then switched over to the scene system, which was basically the same way that they make games within Unity. This was a complete sever within the community. And a lot of people, including myself, remember this time when it happened because there was a good amount of people that had a ton of different projects that were being worked on. And when that change came, most of those games were pretty much null and void. So most of those people have decided, yeah, I'm just going to up and leave and go to another thing and do something else. So I don't think it really helped Facepunch as much doing something like that, but that was ultimately their decision because in the end, they wanted to create a game engine and have a game engine akin to one of the most popular, which is Unity, that many indie developers already know and love and have the same workflow down pat. This was the biggest change and sever to the community, and that was a huge deal that happened. That's probably why there isn't as much content on S&box up until now, where there is tons of developers who are working on that. And Facepunch really has to work hard on trying to improve most of the trust with people because of others using AI generated thumbnails and other things, or just trying to be malicious with what they're doing in the games. This has already been answered because Facepunch is taking out the time to do that, which is very nice. Some people are saying it's a little too late and other things like that. It's been like 2 weeks. I think it's better that if they change it now than never, because at that point, it's like you never listen to anyone who was complaining about this stuff, and Facepunch is actively doing that. So I think that is a positive. Is it a negative that they could have probably prevented this stuff beforehand? Yeah. They probably could have done most of this stuff beforehand, but it's very obvious that now they're trying their absolute best with what they're doing. That's just how it is. You can agree or disagree with it. These are just my own thoughts. Another thing to talk about is the cosmetics in Playfund. This has been a very, very interesting conversation topic that a lot of people have been talking about. When they introduced that system, and I'm pretty sure it was like 2024, the purpose of the system was to benefit developers and creators. And that's what it's still doing now. Issues that most of the people are talking about relates to how that there is people who are using bots and other things to deal with the Playfund so that they could steal Playfund money. FacePunch has already mentioned that they have an algorithm and that they have ways of being able to deal with most of these games that are obviously trying to farm people for money in some aspect, which the only issue with some of these Playfund games relates more to copyright, but also other games like Web Panels was one of them, which I know a person was creating a web panel game, which would be like a website game, which didn't have much value. They already took some of those games down. Like most of those games are gone. Now there is clicker games and other things like that. I don't really know if they're considered web panel games. We're not going to get into that. But between that and copyright and other things, they are taking precautions for people that are trying to use the Playfund for malicious intent or even ways to only just gain money out of players in the most easiest and simplest way possible. With that, this becomes very interesting because there also has been people that, rightfully so, have mentioned that it feels like it's completely pointless to spend $20 and then have cosmetics shoved in front of your face that is fear of missing out or anything like that. I'm going to be completely neutral about this. There's two parts. Number one is I understand why this would be incredibly frustrating because for one, if you're going to be spending $20 to be able to see these cosmetics, it's probably going to be a big turnoff for you. The second half of this is they're completely optional. And if you buy any of these cosmetics, they actually benefit the people who are actively making them, which is the entire point of why S&box exists. Is it's not only meant to be a game engine that is free for game developers to create the games that they want, using it to then be able to export them out of S&box for free to then put onto Steam, which you still have to pay the $100 fee, as basically every single person that has ever uploaded a game onto Steam will have to pay $100 for. That's just how it is. The fact that you don't have to pay a license fee to export it like Godot is really nice. So that is a plus. But S&box as a platform is meant to pay developers for their efforts. I think that is an incredibly good thing to do because most of the time, why am I working on something if I understand that I'm probably not going to get paid for it if it's a video game? I understand about this when it comes to mods and add-ons, that is a whole other different thing. Support your local modders with coffee or other things like that. Logically, yes, I do understand why this would be a turnoff for many different people, but it is optional. And if it is being used by people who are taking out the time to buy cosmetics because they want to, it actually goes for a great cause, which is helping not only developers, but also keep the game afloat because that's how games work nowadays if it's a live service game. That has been a very interesting topic. And while I do get and understand why there is this divide between people saying that it doesn't make any sense for cosmetics, another thing is that people are actively working on figuring out ways to get custom player models completely for free. You are not going to be buying any models, okay? I don't understand why there's like some people who are saying that I have to pay for like models and other things like that, which is like the cosmetics are just cosmetics. The games that you play and the games that people are actively working on are going to have custom player models. I've made an entire video covering this already, where there's even a thread of people who are actively working on tools where you can import source 1 and source 2 assets into the game if you're using models. So it's going to come eventually, and it's only a matter of time. Some of these complaints have been a little bit interesting because I'm like, you could still do these things and it would not make any sense to just start charging for mods and add-ons or even models, right? Most of the cosmetic stuff has been made specifically for creators and people who are actively making them, just like TF2, just like CS2, just like Rust, as what you would normally expect. If you want to get involved with it or not is your choice. That's all I'm really saying. There is quite a bit of issues, and personally for me, yeah, it's incredibly rough to see the launch of the game and having tons of people, both good and bad. My entire point and goal of this channel is to cover all different aspects of S&box because, again, I feel like there's a lot of promise with this game. It's very rough and very early right now, and not much is going on at the moment because tons of developers are working on things, but a lot of people are going to always mention the issues that are happening at the moment. And while there is some things that are being worked on. Gary mentioning about adding warnings for AI thumbnails and other games to then mark them so that they are decreased in the algorithm so that they can show better games on the discovery page, and a ton of other different things, including like free drops if you're playing the game and you just earn them randomly, or if you're reviewing stuff to try out the new review system. There is a lot of stuff that is being done, and the best that I can do personally is just keep going with all this stuff. I do appreciate every single one of you that either leaves a good, negative, bad, whatever type of comment, because most of this will be helpful for Facepunch. I know that Facepunch does watch my videos. They've mentioned it before, and they don't have to listen to a single thing that I even say in any of these videos, to be honest. They can do whatever they want because I have no control over that. But I feel at the same time, it is really awesome to just be able to have a community of people to voice their opinions and their thoughts about how they feel about the game, good or bad. And if the audience is not happy with it and they don't want to buy the game, they're out of luck. That's all I really have for this video. Feel free to leave your comments down below. This was a yap and a half. Subscribe for more videos by your boy. So yeah, I would like to hear your thoughts. Check out the video that's here on screen, and I will see you then next time.